Good evening. Thanks for joining me here tonight. Alright, early this morning at about 5 a.m, I had the opportunity, because my kids woke me up really early, put them back down to bed, and I did a little bit of work with converting Splat across to using VSTS, but I ran out of time, I didn't complete it. So tonight we're just going to complete that activity, and there's been a few changes to how I'm running the stream, so I'd like to run you through this, and hopefully it gives other people who are also live streaming right now and people who are considering live streaming some ideas. So first up first, we now have ghuntley.com/live. It's on GitHub, it's pretty cool. And in this repository, there's all the applications that we're building live on the air. But not only that, it also has a journal. So before each stream, I'm actually now doing a bit of a game plan, and I'm planning like what I'm going to be doing for each stream. And that kind of keeps me focused and also makes it easy for people to follow along, and as people drop in, drop out, I can just recap off this. Highly recommended. I can just update it in line with GitHub editor as I go along. Yeah, so today I've got cake building. This morning I could not get cake building with Splat, and that was because I didn't have the SDKs installed. I had Oreo installed, but I didn't have everything down to Jelly Bean. So that's now fixed, and it's working. Alright, so the other thing that's kind of changed in process, because this is like the third stream, I'm just doing a retrospective after each one, trying to figure out like how can I get this better. Audio is now better, like much better. The first stream was barely audible on a phone, and it was I made the mistake because I use an amplifier on my headphones. I got a headphone DAC, and I couldn't really notice the difference or the problem until I listened to it on my phone, which does not have a DAC. Now, I've been having some high latency tonight. It's 9 o'clock, it's peak Netflix hours, so I'm kind of competing my neighborhood against everyone watching TV, so hopefully the internet holds out. So in the live/projects directory, there is a selection of markdown files, and there's a backlog, there's a checklist. Now this is new. So when you see that I go on air, like there's normally about a 5-minute window before I go on air, and that's because I'm now going through a checklist, and it's just like an airline pilot would do. Like I'm making sure the right audio input's done, I've got the gain for the master volume set correctly, and likewise for the background music, so I'm trying to get consistency in the production. And this is where we're at right now. We're right here. So it's kind of cool. Hopefully gives people some perspective and ideas if they're starting to get into this, what's involved. And as I get better, I'll just do a retrospective at the end of every stream, and we'll just pull request this with like the findings. Now in the source directory, the latency is now 5 seconds. Previously it was at 20 seconds. We're down to 5, which is fantastic. I've got to learn a little bit about VSTS live code. So VSTS live code is it? And that way we can like share some projects, and I've got some ideas how we can do better collaboration, which is cool. In the source directory, I just call out to Mitch. I met Mitch 2 days ago, and it turns out he knows quite a bit about programming bots or chatbots. And he's been graciously over the last couple of days programming a... Hey Dio, thanks for joining in. He's been quite graciously just shipping code every last couple of days, like just 3 days. And we now have a bot in Discord, which is awesome. Thank you, Mitch, for doing this. This is kind of what I hoped that would happen, is we start kind of building a community and people just program together. Right? We could do VSTS live share, or I go, I don't know how we're going to do this. Someone can go look. Hey, Shifty. How's Nova Scotia, mate? And likewise, this is new. We're starting to see, inspired by Jeff Fritz, starting to get a toolbox application. And of course, this uses RX completely end to end. And one of the first things this toolbox does is implements lights. So on my door, the lights automatically change to red when I'm online, and when I go offline, they go back to green, and that signals to my young son not to come into the room. But that's all in theory. I've had it running for a very long time, but that software is not compatible with the software I'm using right now, so I have to build it, which is annoying, but source code's there. Starting to build it out. Alright, so let's get back to the game plan. Hello, we've got 7 people online, that's kind of cool. Freddie, thanks for the host. Alright, so we now have Cake building Splat successfully on the command line, which is like awesome. Just going to prove it before I continue, just to make sure. I'm now in a branch called VSTS, which is like chill. Alright, so that compiled successfully, but notice something, that the semver on the NuGet package is 1000. That's because I burned out Git version. We're going to be using Git version nerdbank. Just simply, I gave Oren the freedom to, like, if he fixed my fixed the DevOps pipeline and moved us into the .NET Foundation on VSTS, he could do whatever he liked. So it was like carte blanche. So he finally got the opportunity to rip out Git version and replace it with his preference. So I'm just going to follow suit for standardization, and next step is we're going to pull out node version, some of the configuration files from Reactive UI, stick it in here, update some MS build targets, and go straight to VSTS pipelines. Alright, so we're moving away from Athlayer to VSTS, and with VSTS we use a configuration YAML file called .vsts-ci. This is the one currently used by Reactive UI. We're going to be stealing this pretty much verbatim, and something I noticed just before going on air is how the version is set, because previously we would invoke a git version, and git version would set to an environment variable. But here, what we're actually doing is we're invoking an MS build script, like a CS proj, and that's setting the version. So that's cool, something I learned. Let's bring it across. Alright, while I'm in here, I've noticed that everything's still referencing Paul Betts instead of the .NET Foundation, so we'll just fix it while we're in here. But if you haven't come across this before, we've got this thing called directory build.props. Really, really important if you're using the new Breach CS proj. With this new project SDK, what happens is you actually specify the MS build targets, the properties into the target. But that's annoying because it's a lot of duplication. You need a source of truth. So this is how we get our source of truth. It's our directory build.props. If you put it in a parent directory, all child CS projes below that, sorry, above that, yeah, below that will inherit it. So anything in SRC, anything deeper than that will pull this in and inherit it automatically. Let's add in the license, because it's always like the right thing to do to ship the license as part of your package, and some open source licenses require it. So yeah, that's the whole trick. This one definition means all of the packages, like this, like 8 or 9 different packages for Reactive UI. That means that all these packages automatically get the license, and I'm defining it in a singular place. Cool. Alright, so it's one place done for NerdBank Git versioning. So implementing it in here is the first step that gives us the MS Build target. The next step is I have to specialize the script/csproj. I've never done this before. We're just doing it live and figuring it out. So if I run into a problem and you figure something out, just point me in the right place. Cool, both versions are consistent. That's one thing we wanted to make sure. There's a little bit of duplication here, but whatever. It's not that bad. Okay, so the way NerdBank works is it has a version.json, and in the out configuration we just run off a master branch. This is true for Reactive UI and all of like the Reactive projects that are heading this direction. So we have it run a single branch master. We don't merge before it's ready to ship, and every time it merges it increments the patch version, and it pushes automatically to myget. Now we have some decision. When we want to release a new version, what we're going to do is just raise a pull request to update this. We either update the major or we update the minor, and as soon as we do that, it generates a new version with the correct number. Pushes the NuGet. We got the opportunity to test, but really what happens is you get a portal, and in that portal we just click approve and it pushes the NuGet automatically, and that's what we'll be doing. That's the end goal of this stream. So one of the cool features talking about identity signing. So if you right click on the assembly, it actually is stamped in with a certificate for .NET Foundation, which proves it was built by an infrastructure, which means like as a maintainer, I can like verify someone's not using, someone is, when they put a ticket in, like they're using the official version and they haven't compiled their own. Likewise, similar guarantees in Enterprise that you are using the official version has been monkey patched. And if you want to, part of the foundation, you can also sign your executable, which means it automatically passes Smart Screen, which is great. And the final, like icing on the cake with Orin, is it's actually made it so it automatically signs the NuGet package, because you now need to do signing on the NuGet package to prevent tampering. Because previously, if you were to download a NuGet package on a HTTP server, it was possible to open up a zip file, modify the contents, man in the middle style, and you would be none the wiser. Like, it was very easy to switch out the content packages. So now that's got some verification. The release I tried to do 2 days ago failed because it was such a long time since it did a release, and I wasn't aware that I had not actually updated that package to have proper signing. That's prompted the move across. Otherwise, I'd still be on app failure. It's just too much pain to maintain two infrastructures. Greetings, thanks for joining in. Had a bunch of new people join, so hi, my name's Jeff. We're doing some DevOps configuration if the Australian internet works today. Looks like name resolution is a little bit sketchy today, so fingers crossed. Thanks for the feedback, Demo. Couple of things going on. I've adjusted the keyframe rate. Previously I was at 4, now it's at 2, which is a recommendation, so it would help with synchronization. I'm also broadcasting at 1080p, but I don't actually transcode down, and I've got it on very low latency, and that means that if you're on a mobile connection and your mobile connection is not that great, you're actually getting a full quality feed. It's not actually been reduced. So if your network connection is not great, it'll stutter. Now I have some options. I can actually buy some transcoding time. Let me pull up how much that's going to cost. No, I'm not authenticated right now, and the session's not like I'm not in. And rather than jump through those hoops, it's something like yeah, it's within realm to do, and I will. Is this, if this proves to be like something that like people are going to tune in and watch and get entertainment out of, totally I'm going to invest in some transcoding time. But there is a financial outlay, and it's like a per hour, and then I have to decide whether I'm going to transcode just to transcode to both Twitch and Twitter, and if I do that, then that's double spend of transcode time. So I've got to make some decisions, but there are options, and that will totally make your viewing experience much better. Right, sweet, just going to log into VSTS and I'll be back. I'm just going to make sure that I navigate the right sections and I don't do any disclosure. And welcome back. So this is the .NET Foundation VSTS, Visual Studio instance. And for all intents and purpose, we're classifying Splat as part of Reactive UI because we can't build Reactive UI without Splat, and it's not big enough to be its own project, like separately under the foundation. So it is grouping anything to do with reactive programming in .NET under Reactive UI because it seems to be the biggest community when it comes to reactive programming in .NET. Now with VSTS, you don't actually have to host your source code on VSTS, and recently they added the ability to have a public repository with VSTS, which is like cool, but we just use the build and release. So we have webhooks configured into GitHub, which trigger the build and release functionality. So let's go in there. Now in VSTS, you're going to see there's two release things. The star means it's a preview option. So the top release button is the existing UI, and the incoming change of UI that's been prototyped is in the star. You can enable those features up over here. You just go preview features. Afterwards I'll throw in a link to a particular blog post by Oren, which details how he configures VSTS for open source projects. It's a really good read. The general theory is all increments are deployable, but aren't. Like, they don't deploy by default. So at any point when you've got a build, you should be able to deploy that build. You should not have to do it generates the increment, and that increment is saved into a bucket, and that bucket is then pushed to NuGet. Likewise, it's also a tick box to approve to push it to, it's automatically pushed to MyGet. Yeah, it's automatically pushed to MyGet, and there's a tick box to enable pushing to NuGet. And there's a second job, which is CI-PR, and that does a validation on every pull request that's done that it actually works. That way, that prevents you from merging bad work into master, as long as you have tests. But unfortunately with Splat, we don't have tests. So it's just really just a kick in the tires to make sure it compiles type of thing. If you want to add tests to Splat, go for it. We'll accept them. And the configuration is driven off the YAML file that we customized before. Hopefully I got it right, otherwise I'll just push the commits to master. And the only thing we need to do here is just authenticate incorrectly and move it from pulling from reactive UI/reactive UI to reactive UI/Splat. One tick. And we're back. Taking bets. Is it going to be a green build or a red build? We shall see. And fingers crossed, it should just work. Hey Nick, thanks for tuning in. Just out of interest, what did you do? Why did you choose YouTube over Twitch? Something that kind of interested about is which streaming platform do I use? In this case, I'm broadcasting to all of them. So we've got a couple of people betting on green. I'm hopeful for green as well. It's red. It's red. Actually, wait a sec. That's the reactive UI CI. That's interesting. We're going to have to investigate that later. Alright, while that's waiting to queue, let's just go do some triage. So if you've never seen this before, this is Octobox. Octobox actually makes GitHub usable. Just go to octobox.io, click login, and it just works. Right? It just allows you to actually do open source maintenance. Right, do we have green build? We'll see. Version was set successfully. That's like good. So now the environment variable set, that's passed in by msbuild/p for the parameter, and hopefully this generates an assembly. NuGet package, it should be 40.1. Could be .2. We'll see. Versions don't really matter. looking good. So the version for the NuGet package is going to be 4.0.1, which is like great because 4.0.0, when I pushed it, it failed spectacularly. NuGet rejected it. On the off chance the NuGet team is watching, some feedback is like the rejection email. Can you please like tell immediately why it was rejected? Don't just say contact support. Like just say like you uploaded something that wasn't signed correctly. That's really good because I didn't find out the real reason until like 5 minutes afterwards. It looks like it's an asynchronous workflow. Just hold back and tell me it got rejected, and then tell me the real reason straight away, please. Don't just like that and then provide no explanation for 5 minutes and then provide the real explanation, please. Better yet, like what? Why is there even any delay at all? I don't have this problem with npm or like publishing any other open source packages. It just works. All right, so we got a green red build. So MS build was fine. I've done something wrong with the YAML. It's unable to configure copy files. So let's figure out what's going on here. So compile's fine, but actually dumping it into the bucket is not working. So let's fix that. Let's figure out what the right source and destination is, and do another build. It's actually a really good opportunity to actually test that PR's work, and the PR bot actually validates that the build actually succeeds. So let's see. Totally right. Like, it should just work. And this is like, I should be wrapping up the stream now. This should be working. So let's just fix the path, ship it, and let's just wrap up. I'm guessing it's a VSGS destination. If anyone knows VSGS a little bit better than myself, I'm just going to go spelunking and see if we've got like a bucket. And I need to manually create this bucket. Hey Vats. How's your VSGS, mate? Specifically this, the target folder of such binaries. I'm guessing that's a destination folder and a bucket I've got to create in VSGS somewhere. If you know where, let me know so you can save some time. Cheers for tuning in. While we're in here, we might as well clone the reactive UI release and just specialize it specifically for Splat. I'm not using remote agents. This is all built into VSTS, like local agents. So the path should be fine. I'm guessing there's some destination directory. Yeah, cheers, mate. In particular, it is the bottom task. It is the publish build artifacts number 1. Saying this is not working. Path not found to the binaries. I'm working on reactive UI/splat. That's the repository, and we use this. This is the file that we're working in. And in particular, when it loads right down the bottom, the final step in the task is failing. This one right here. So this is, we're building off master. It's not a pull request. So ignore the top one, it's the bottom one. Hey Forming, thanks for joining. We're just doing some build automation using Visual Studio Online. If you've got any questions, let me know. We're using the .NET Foundation VSTS instance because this is a .NET Foundation project. So any questions about .NET Foundation, DevOps, Cake, the new CS project system, just ask, we're here. Cool. I might actually have to do some of this off air. In particular, when I've cloned the release definition, for security reasons, it doesn't actually clone the authentication tokens, which is good, but it means I have to switch out into a different user account, 2FA, bust out LastPass, bunch of stuff to get actually to the right credentials. For security reasons, I don't have access on this machine. Alright, so the actual error is path not found to binaries. This thing right here. So in particular, we've got an artifact staging directory / binaries. Do I have to make that directory or make that bucket? Let's go spelunking, and if you know, let's cool. Alright, let's walk through the logs. Actually, this is public. I can just drop this over to you. It's kind of cool thing about VSTS. It's now all like public open source repositories. So let's look at the output beforehand. Really good call. So first up first, my build worked perfectly. Generated out my artifact, and it got dropped into a folder called artifacts / Splat new package, and it got signed, which is great. Now, it copies from artifacts into packages. Then it uploads packages into a Visual Studio container / packages. Then I'm copying 0 files. Yeah, you're right. I think it's the preceding. Like, okay, so what is the copy files actually doing? I kind of should have errored out. Yep, got it. Thank you very much. That is exactly it. The preceding task, copy files, failed because it couldn't find a match for that glob. So that's like the glob of bin. Let's have a look when I do a local build what that actually does. You know what? It's not even needed. So the issue is here, this glob, but that should start at the root and go all the way down. // backslash? Okay, let's just quickly look at the Reactive UI one. That's really weird because I copied this from Reactive UI and it's working there. So maybe I made a mistake in specializing this. Thank you for your help. Weird in Reactive UI, it's glob forward. You know what? I don't really even need this. I'm just going to burn it. It's not needed. The only thing I care about is the NuGet package, and the NuGet package contains the binaries. So I don't even know why we're doing a separate thing here. Cool, so I got no branch protections, so I can just push master, which is bad. We'll fix this afterwards. All right, so how do you get like? Oh my god, did you just see that? Anytime I push code, it launches a rocket. It's not just explosive like carrots. It actually ships rockets when I ship code. It is awesome. Unfortunately, it's made in Electron, but it's cool, and my computer has 64 gigs of memory, and I don't care. It's cool. Plus, it ships rockets, right? So the terminal is called Hyper. It's an Electron app, and what you want is the power and the Git rocket plugin, and then you get these cool features. Yeah, totally right. Like a bit of novelty, like shipping rockets when you push code. Yes. So the semver for this is going to be 402 by the looks of it. So, whatever. I really, really don't care if there's like a 4.0 and there's no 4.01 published. It means nothing. Like, as long as you follow the rules of semver, like if you break the public API contract, bump the major. And likewise, if you add a new feature, just bump the feature. Like any numbers here or there, like people are very pedantic about having clean zeros, like 5000. Does not matter. We spend too much energy on these things. It's not really a huge concern. Oh, completely. Yeah, don't have long-running branches ever. Just single branch of master, and don't merge stuff before it's ready. I don't have long-running branches. We could have released Reactive UI about like V8 about 6 months ago if maybe a year ago if the .NET toolchain was a little bit more stable. And also we were in a very deep running branch, and it got to a point where we could not support, we couldn't even build the old version running in master. And really what we should have been doing is just continually just piling on into master. Just the .NET toolchain diverged too much. Cool, so the Semver is 402, built successfully, it's been signed. Thank you, Oren, I love your work. And that's a green build. We are good. And welcome back. So I'm out of USB ports on my computer. I've got a bunch of hubs arriving, so I don't actually have my YubiKey, so I actually have to grab my phone, look up some passwords on LastPass, switch privacy, and enter them manually. Can't wait till I get my USB hubs. So yeah, so how does the signing work? Okay, quick architecture, how this all works. At the heart of it is the Azure HSM. Like, the certificate is actually in the HSM, Azure HSM. And Oren has created a API on top, and that HTTP API provides a way to actually sign an interface with that HSM. And the type of signing that occurs is we do identity signing, meaning if you right click on a DLL, it's going to say that it's a .NET Foundation and it's generated by the .NET Foundation certificate. And once it's in the HSM, no one's got access to that certificate. There's only one way to get access to the certificate. It's to delete it or revoke it, or go via this API. And each one of the projects in the .NET Foundation has their own unique identifiers, and we also have secrets that are not in GitHub that allow us to authenticate with this API. We also use this signing service. It's called the .NET Foundation Signing Service by Oren. We use it to sign our NuGet packages to prevent man-in-the-middle attack and tampering. Nick, that's exactly it. Yeah, GitHub sign service. That's really good. Oren has done a whole bunch of blogs on it. If you want to learn about it, speak of him or like Kevin Jones, two people in .NET who get security in that aspect, apart from Blowdart. They know it better than I do. Right, so master is now protected. I cannot push to it. Let's test it. Yes. Totally right. Well, Splat is such a low volume project. I don't think anyone has cloned it. Never do this on main reactive UI ever. Don't do this in any other project. It's just, this thing is like, we need maintainers, we need people cloning down source code. I don't think anyone's compiled this in a year. And if this works, we should get a cute little rocket. There we go. Yeah, trigger builds. So that means the Semver is now at like 404, whatever. Yeah, totally. There's no video evidence of this. All right, welcome back. Yeah, at this point we're all complicit. Anyway, I don't know exactly which button I'm missing here. I can't enable it, so whatever. I'm just going to skip on by, and I'll do it after the show as part of cleanup. That's a better way to detect it. Okay, let's have a look. Bingo. It's because I was an administrator. That's really stupid. Yeah, it was totally because I was an admin. I forgot to tick the admin tick box, so yeah, whatever. Oh, and by the way, if you did what I just did at a client, or like on production, more production than like hobby open source, and for like a niche little project, I would be very unhappy. First, I would try and figure out why that was possible. Like, that should not be possible. A junior or even a senior should not be able to do that. So it's always the fault of the system. If the system allows you to do it, fix the system. Right now the system is fixed, we won't have this problem. But the main thing is don't hide it. Right? If you stuff up like that, just don't hide it. Like, communicate it. If you don't communicate it, you're in shit. Silent language. So it's looking good. It's kicked off the build, which is like great. All right, give me a tick. Let me get these personal tokens. Welcome back. So, something that gets drilled into you in like infrastructure school when you first do your first help desk job, you see the chaos when someone like leaves a company. Always use service accounts. So in this case, Reactive UI has a service account, and that's Reactive UI bot. And I've just popped a new private session, authenticated as this user, and then I'll be able to switch screens just for privacy quickly to grab the personal access token. But yeah, always use service accounts. This extends all the way into software development as well. If you're running an open source project, use a service account, have a separate thing. It allows you to move on. These credentials are shared between team members of the project, and if I'm on holidays, the team is not screwed. So always use service accounts. And welcome back. Tokens are configured. All good. Hopefully we get a release. That's strange. I just remembered I don't use the solution to build. So this PR is going to fail. So the PR is going to succeed. So let's just nuke this and do something a little bit more malicious. Killed is double checking that it's not automatically going to push to NuGet. Yeah, I haven't actually done much work with Key Vault VATs. I normally delegate straight to Oren, but the reason I'm doing this tonight is because Oren just needs a break. He's spending some time with his family, which is awesome. So I'm digging in and doing it, which is good. If you have like strong preferences, and if you kind of want to, Oren always needs help, man. So if you want to like get involved and help out in these areas, yeah, speak to Oren. I can introduce you. That should be it. Should go, just triggered off a new release. So how this works for Reactive UI and Splat is we have a automatic release definition that listens to artifacts being dumped into a bucket. And once that artifact has been dumped to the bucket, it triggers a change, and the change is it pushes to NuGet. Sorry, pushes to MyGet. Sends me an email address, sends me an email and all the other maintainers an email, and if we click approve, it pushes out to NuGet. So we'll just simulate this now and wrap up the stream. Thank you very much everyone for tuning in. It's been really cool. Might take a little break, it's getting quite late, and early in the morning I'm going to do another stream specifically on Reactive UI and some of the things how we actually do releases for Reactive UI in detail. This has been a very high level overview for a very simplistic library. Reactive UI is a little bit different. Same principles, but it's a little bit more involved. Like we have to craft very big release notes thanking everyone for contributing and all that junk. You need to do it as a maintainer. You might say junk, but you need to do it. It is really important. hit me up in Teams, Vats, and yeah. And winner, winner, chicken dinner. VSTS has failed the build, which is exactly what we wanted. Fantastic. All right, I'm going to wrap this up now because it's all kind of working. I'll do some stuff afterwards just to make sure everything gets pushed in NuGet, do some release notes, do some announcements, just maintain Arati stuff. Thank you very much for joining me. I broadcast Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings, 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. I'm going to be in Melbourne this week, so Vats and other people in Melbourne, I'll be dropping in for Back to Base. So hi, probably going to be in Melbourne for about 7 days, just attending some family stuff.